Hi Naya. Um, I honestly really liked your initial response and your kind of response to my initial response. I agree with your ideas that a lot of the issues in reproducibility is communicating the ideas for that. And I also agree that within reproducibility, what matters is understanding the data and being able to make the data acquisition methods and publish data sets as accessible as possible. Sometimes I will run into a situation where I am looking for a summary table. Like for example, I was looking at a GWAS on social isolation behavior, and I wanted the summary table for allele frequency, and that data was not published, so it made kind of it made validating that original study a bit difficult. Um, there are a bunch of different databases that are designed for the specific purpose of publishing the data that you collect in research. Especially nowadays, we have so many techniques to publish or to collect huge data sets that it makes it quite difficult to keep track of everything and know where everything goes. And, certain studies can publish so many different types of data. Like we can analyze everything off of one tissue biopsy. We can have like multi-omics. We can have a bunch of molecular features identified. And the issue is, how do we organize? How do we kind of deposit those in a way that is very accessible to not just researchers but the public in general? And then how do we communicate what those data sets actually mean and what they come from? So I really like these points that you made. Um, I also think that mm, I kind of agree as well with your take that the experimental design has to be very robustly made and communicated to agree with the question, like the final question you're looking for. Um, I do believe that often we can have a experimental design that does not really match with what we are, or not we, but researchers can sometimes have a method or a design or an analysis that doesn't really match with the exact question they're looking to answer, or it doesn't really make sense for the question they're looking to answer. I think in this class we looked at a paper on PMS, I think this week, or a PMS study that was done in vitro. And it's kind of like the same thing where they are designing an experiment not to answer anything about PMS, but it kind of sounds like they are. I don't know if that made any sense, but that was kind of my take from the experiment. Like a lot of the results were simply results that would be only applicable to their particular culture, and instead it's kind of framed as a wider PMS study. So I kind of agree there as well that the design has to match the question. Um, do, do, do. I think we both agree on the variability issue, where we have to account for all variation that we could possibly see, and it's not just accounting for it via statistics. We actually have to understand where these variation may have come from, and we have to, correct our final results, or our conclusions based on these assumptions or variability assumptions. So I agree with your point there. I think we're also kind of on the issue of culture versus incentive and funding. I think we're kind of on the same line, just arguing it from different angles. So I think we both agree that novelty, publication volume, and type of result, or exciting novel results, are kind of what drives research. And it is a culture issue in that every institution or scientist or whatever wants to be more, is kind of pressured into being the perfect scientist, having the highest publication numbers, the most novel methods and analyses. So I think we're kind of in agreement there. I would just argue slightly more for the fact that the funding is what drives this rather than funding being the result of this, maybe. But I think overall we're kind of on the same page there. Just like slightly different idea of how it should carry on. Um, the public trust angle is interesting. I think that public trust is very important, and I'm not sure where exactly it lies in the sort of pathway of issue here. So I think like scientists should be trained to communicate to a general audience their findings in like a very digestible manner, and I do think that that would result in a higher public trust. But um, do 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 do. But yeah, public trust. I think the best way to facilitate public trust between obviously the public and academic institutions or science institutions is simply how results are communicated and what the kind of idea behind where they came from is. I think it would be very interesting if scientists published sort of a like ideas paper or like an ideas section where they kind of planned out why exactly they wanted to pursue this and what domain they were looking to make their contribution in. I think that would help the public kind of understand more behind why the scientists' actions are the way they are. That's like very general in a sense, but yeah, I really appreciated the public trust kind of angle. But yeah, thank you for your comments on my post, Naya. I thought they were very well. You're very well spoken, very articulate. Um, and yeah, I hope you appreciate what I have said here. I'm not sure how the final response thing will go, but I'm gonna kind of mull over everything and then give a more digestible response, hopefully. Thank you.